For years now, people have been looking for a simple, non-technical guide to blockchain and understand its implication for them practically. I have also been asking the same questions, and it led me to do a lot of research to finally piece them all together. I would have moved on to implement them without explaining to anyone, but I stay with a lot of elderly people. These elderly people rate me as being next in rank to Bill Gates when it comes to understanding tech. I wish it was the money part though. So I am saddled with the responsibility of explaining and salvaging their belief in me. This belief is all because I am able to update their WhatsApp and help them tune into Facebook Live videos. Well, since I can explain these terms in writing and they can all read, I decided to write a simple story like a non-technical guide to blockchain for them and now for you. This turned out to be pretty long, but we have a table of content to help you navigate any area you are more interested in. We have history, non-technical guide to blockchain, use cases which includes cryptocurrency, voting, health. We also have problems which includes environmental impact, personal responsibility, criminal use. We also have how to get into the blockchain industry, which includes the owner, the trader, technical and non-technical. And finally, we have the conclusion. Now moving over to history. Originally, there was no need for money or currency because people were few and they all engaged in agriculture. So they ate what they planted and harvested from their own farms. As the population increased, however, the desire for variety grew and farmers, everybody in this case, started specializing in growing a set of crops as against every other crop. The exchange became necessary and then came in barter or trade by barter. Here, the farmer of a yam would trade a tuber of yam for a bag of wheat. Some people started to feel cheated, and rightly so. They came together and felt that it was necessary to have a standard of measurement that everyone can abide by and trade by. They decided to deposit their grains and products with the temples because they could trust that institution to give the right standard of measurement to everyone. The temples would give a receipt to the farmer describing the amount of produce brought to the temple. It was a matter of trust, and you will see why we will talk about trust as you move on further. To get a more standard measurement, they will appeal to everyone involved in the trade. Different commodities were introduced like copper, gold, and silver. Later on came mints that produced coins and paper money. Depending on the time range and location, the government, temple, or bank was in control of the distribution of these commodities that we now call money. With this standard, they had to use a system where the transaction was recorded in one place or ledger. So the farmer brought the product and the officers in charge wrote it down in a book. The farmer kept no record, and all the subsequent dealings with that farmer were kept with the officiating institution at the time. This is called the single entry system, and it had a load of problems, especially that of reconciliation. Sometimes later, the world became more interconnected and business was done between the Arabs and Asians, the Africans and the Americans. We could no longer trust one source of information. We moved on to create the double entry system, which means that anytime a transaction is done, it has to be represented in two different ledgers or formats, where it came from, debit, and where it went to, credit. It has been working for years and is still the most popular practice in use. That is why you can send money with the internet from Enugu to Atlanta and no one will come tomorrow to say this didn't happen. The bank in Enugu has a record, the intermediary, say Cheaper Cash, has a record, and the bank in Atlanta has a record. There are still problems associated with the double entry system. Unfortunately, humans will always be humans. Mistakes and manipulations can happen. So you can send money to a legal account that will act as a front while you divert the funds to another untraceable or hidden account. And you can document that you sent an amount of money different from what you actually sent. These are some of the ways that issues arise with the double entry system. It then became necessary to move from double entry to triple entry system. This is where blockchain technology comes in. Side note, single and double entry does not apply only to money. We will use cases as we go down. Money was used as an example here. The non-technical guide to blockchain. Now in triple entry system, instead of having the records written on the credit and debit sides by an authority whom we are to trust, we now have the records written by the public and validated by the public. Let's give a scenario. Emmanuel has $4,500 in his Alpha Bank account and wants to send $600 to Lisa's Beta Bank account. Emmanuel uses the bank app on his phone to instruct Alpha Bank to send $600 to Lisa's Beta Bank through the internet technology. Alpha Bank authorizes the transaction and sends an instruction to Beta Bank to credit Lisa with $600 while removing the said $600 from Emmanuel's account, plus some little percentage that accrues to go to Alpha Bank for doing the job. Emmanuel gets a notification that his money is currently at $3,900, while Lisa gets a notification that she is $600 richer. From this example, the parties privy to this transaction are 1. Emmanuel, who initiated the transaction. 2. Alpha Bank, who authorized the transaction and noted down the debit part of the transaction. 3. Beta Bank, who received the transaction and noted down the debit part of the transaction. And Lisa, who got the money. Emmanuel's wife, Lisa's neighbor, and the billions of other people in the world does not know of this transaction and cannot know except any of these parties involved divulge the information to them. The public only becomes aware of the number of the transactions Alpha Bank did on that day, but not the details of the transactions. It then means that in one way or the other, Alpha Bank, Beta Bank, Emmanuel, or Lisa can alter the details of these transactions while presenting them to the public. They can do this either individually or they can collectively agree to do this. With a triple entry system, read blockchain, it plays out in a different manner. Emmanuel, while trying to send the $600 to Lisa, uses an app on his phone to initiate the transaction. Instead of a body of authority, the bank in question now, to authorize the note and note down the debit transaction secretly on its platform, a group of people from different parts of the world openly authorize the transaction for everyone who cares to see it. So, if you're interested and you are aware of the transaction number, you can go back to the records and pull up the transaction Emmanuel has ever done. P.S. Blockchain does not make the details of Emmanuel public. What it does is to assign an ID to Emmanuel and tag that transaction to the ID while showing us the transaction. The problem with this illustration is that I run the risk of tagging blockchain to the financial sector. So I'll also give you a non-financial, non-technical guide to blockchain using a school setting. Master Profiting High School has 6 students in class 3. At the end of the term, obviously, someone will take the 6th last position. Let's call this person Tony. Tony knows his ass will be whooped when he goes back home to his dad. So with that result, he changes his scorecard so that he takes 3rd. He survives the thrashing that term. Mastering Profiting High School now decides to introduce blockchain technology to their result system. With this introduction, they are now able to set up every child's result on the technology and let each parent check their child's score with their child's unique ID. On a deeper level, we can also trust that the teachers won't mess with the child's score because the marks are sent to the blockchain where they cannot be changed by the teacher. So how do people from different parts of the world authorize a transaction? The blockchain technology operates on a distributed recording system, technical nodes, located in different parts of the world. So when Emmanuel makes a transaction, the command goes to the different systems all over the world to record it. Seeing as it had to be opened before it was even carried out, there is also no way the details can be hidden. When the authorizers, technical minters, tamper with the records, the blockchain technology, apart from being distributed, is also immutable. This means that a transaction made in 2020 cannot be wiped out or altered in any way. Let me explain further. The blockchain technology was created in such a way that information is entered into a ledger. Think of it as a page called a block. And once that information becomes verified by the numerous authorizers involved, it solidifies so that you can neither add more nor remove from it. These individual blocks are made up of a technically derived signature of the data imputed into the block, technical hash, the data of the transaction made on the block, in the minor's case, $600, a signature of the previous block that existed before this current one. This is the hash of the previous block and connects the current block with the former block, and the timestamp of when the transaction was made. So each block uses the hash of the parent block to complete its own creation as a block, then releases its hash for the creation of a new block. The chain-like connection of each block with their hashes now form the blockchain. The verification process involves making sure that the details in each block tally with the previous blocks in the chain and becomes immutable. You cannot change it. When you try to send in the wrong details for the formation of a block, it will not synchronize with the previous blocks in the chain. Rather, it creates an entirely new block. The new illegal block is not generally accepted by the authorizers, so it does not have the ability to enter the chain or birth a new block, hence becomes discarded. So who owns blockchain? No one owns and controls the blockchain. Blockchain is just like the internet. It is a concept that people and corporations build upon. People can wake up and build something on the technology, and the first thing ever built on it is the Bitcoin. It is often said that email is to the internet while Bitcoin is to blockchain. Is it not possible for the creators of ethereum or any blockchains to tamper with the transactions? No. The creators make it open for others to authorize the transactions and give them a very minute pay for authorizing the transaction. Technical gas fees. In a blockchain technical guide, there would have been a lot of technical words and jargon, but in this non-technical guide to blockchain, I deemed it better to only mention the important ones when appropriate. Next, we have the use cases. The blockchain technology has also been used to build other networks like Ethereum, Ripple, Stellar, Solana. These different networks that have been built on blockchain technology are used for diverse real-life applications and industries. Let's talk about some of them here. Cryptocurrency. Apart from the issues of manipulation and tampering that happens with double entry systems, there are many other reasons that blockchain has to be used in the world of money and currency. Blockchain empowered currencies, cryptocurrency now, are vital if you want to ensure the sovereignty of your funds. There have been situations where the commercial bank or central bank of the country decides to seize the funds of an individual, company, or country for any reason. It provides an edge for people who want to secure themselves against crippling economies while helping to make business transactions to different parts of the globe in record time and at incredible cheap prices. Internally though, different banks are developing their own internal blockchain networks that can use for their banks. Cryptocurrencies are also used to make financial payments and reward systems for different markets. Voting. All over the world, some of the biggest issues to voting are low participation of the people and rigging of the election numbers. When you introduce blockchain into the equation, it makes it impossible to tamper with the numbers because the system captures every vote cast across all the cities of the country immediately and makes it transparent to all to see. After the first trial of this method, people will have trust in the system and turn out en masse for the next election. This entirely strikes out any mention of the interference by any of the authorities involved. Health. With blockchain, you can have all your medical records and history stored on the blockchain network for easy accessibility from any part of the world. This means that when a Nigerian travels to Australia and has a health challenge that does not enable him to talk about his medical history, with blockchain, the doctors with the right permission can see all about his details and figure out how best to tackle his current situation. The doctors in Australia will also add the details of what they did so that when he comes back to Nigeria, the appropriate treatment can continue. Let's talk about the problems. Starting with the environmental impact. It takes a lot of electricity to validate and mine some blockchain networks, example, Bitcoin. The New York Times states that it takes 91 terawatt hours of electricity to mine Bitcoin annually. This is way more than the whole country of Finland uses. Talk about the effects on the global effect have been enough reason for some people to stay away from the technology. Personal responsibility now. Blockchain removes power and responsibility from the big corporations and government and places it in your hand. Unfortunately, some people can be careless with this power and lose it. According to some statistics, about 20% of the current Bitcoin in circulation has been lost when the owners forgot their entry details. So they have their Bitcoins in their wallets, increasing with the current increase in Bitcoin, but they cannot access it and no one can access it for them. Criminal use. As earlier discussed, when making your transaction open to the public, it does not carry your name, address, and passport. Rather, it goes with a set of numbers that are peculiar to you. Criminals and money launderers these days use cryptocurrency to move money under the protection of blockchain without being tagged to the money. They also use this to purchase illegal and prohibited goods locally and internationally with ease. There are ways that this can be remedied, but does not fall under the scope of this article. Now, let's discuss how to get into the blockchain industry. After writing a non-technical guide to blockchain for newbies, it is expected that people are also encouraged to enter the industry. It will not be very profitable not to use knowledge that you have got. Just like everything tech, you can start with what you have and where you are at the moment. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, farmer, doctor, teacher, or even a high school student. There is a place for you in the blockchain industry. I have listed 4 ways you can plunge into the blockchain industry. The owner. If you're already an owner in any field of life and you don't want to switch to the blockchain, you can incorporate blockchain into what you do. You can collect payments in cryptocurrencies just like Elon Musk did with Tesla. You can run your digital platforms to blockchain just as we have seen banks do. It will require some technical know-how to help you make the migration, but it will be a highly profitable move for your company. A trader. Another highly lucrative way of entering the blockchain industry is through trading blockchain assets, cryptocurrency, NFTs, etc. It works just like the normal investment we have around. You buy at a lower rate after carefully calculating the trend of the asset, and you sell at a higher rate. If you bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin in 2016, by 2021 you would have had $139 million. This is not an invitation to rush into the gold mine. It requires tact and knowledge lest you lose your funds. If you're interested in this, click here to send me a message on WhatsApp. Technical. The world is moving speedily into blockchain, and there is a huge demand for developers that will cater for the blockchain needs of the world. That's why, according to Glassdoor, there was a 300% increase in the demand for blockchain developers, and that number is most definitely rising in 2022. If you need more motivation to become one, then I recommend that you read this. Non-technical. If you are like me who have sworn never to become a developer, then there is still space for you in the blockchain world. You can become a community manager, a project manager, a graphics designer, a blockchain architect, a content writer, a research analyst. plus a load of other non-technical jobs that you can do. You can start here today to learn one of these skills, but if you already have one of these skills, then start today because the room is very large to accommodate you. That being said, if you need a blockchain content writer or marketer, send me an email here. In conclusion, I know this was a tad long, but I believe you learned a lot from this. The major aim of this is to encourage the entrance of everyday people to the blockchain space, and I hope it achieved that goal. Tell me in the comments below what you learned, an analogy you understand better, or the route you'll be taking to the blockchain industry. Likewise, if you have questions, feel free to ask below.